So before the video starts, before skits, before anything like that, I just want to establish that this is kind of the new format. Me walking around with gameplay footage and skits, and don't worry, the walking around segments aren't going to take that long. But in transitioning from editing on my phone to editing on the computer, I realized that I suck at commentating and like sitting down because I have very, very bad ADHD. Like I can't sit still. That's why in some of the earlier commentary when I'm editing on my phone, take the DMC4 out of style video, for instance, you can hear me messing around with something in the background with my hands or something. I don't remember quite what it was. But yeah, anyway, intro aside, thank you. Thanks for all the support on the last video. I'm trying to make this under a minute. I'm really not trying to waste your time, guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, anyway, thanks for all the support on the last video. I hope you enjoy this one. Bye. I'm reviewing DMC3 today.
What's the matter, pal? Thought you were gonna review Devil May Cry 3 today? Unfortunately for you, that was a cancer dream that I implanted in your brain with my cancer powers because of my chronic piss cancer. Now I'm gonna level with you. I don't like being your roommate. This shit sucks. I have to live under your bed. And then on top of that, to make even a little bit of money, I have to go mine cryptocurrency with the neckbeards on Reddit. Jesus, I hate living. Anyway, call me Cancer Goblin. I'm your new roommate. Now, my job here is to read your ads whenever you get ads, which, given your current status on the internet, doesn't really seem like it's going to be anytime soon. Anyway, you have a jolly good day. I hope you get hit by a fucking bus on your commute to work, you dumbass. Fucking piece of shit.
Oh, okay then. You have a nice day, Mr. Cancer Goblin. How the fuck are you living under my bed? What the hell? Alright. So as a DMC fan, we're all very well aware of the fact that every DMC game has a very specific feeling to it. DMC 1 is all about the atmosphere. DMC 2 is... we'll get to it. DMC 3 is all about flow. DMC 4 is all about technical proficiency and having, a brain that becomes a beanbag chair like that one meme. And DMC is trying to have some of those elements but fails miserably. We'll get to it. DMC 5 is a power fantasy. It is amazing. And we love it. Now, what is DMC2's feeling? Well, for that, I've brought in a very special guest. Mr. Cobain, if you could take it from the top, please. So how did I get into Devil May Cry 2? Well, here's how. So, one random Saturday afternoon, I decided to take the plunge after forcing myself to not play Devil May Cry 1 or 3 anymore, because I wanted to try something new. And I had known that DMC 2 was kind of the shitty game in the series, so that's why I stayed away from it for so long. And after a while, I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna bite the bullet and play Devil May Cry 2. And I got about a little ways into Mission 1, realized that I couldn't do any of the cool combos from Devil May Cry 3 or 1, and at that point decided, I'm gonna go back and play Devil May Cry 3. And then a week later I bought Devil May Cry 4 and never looked back at Devil May Cry 2. Anyway, about a year goes by, and I decide to finally take the plunge and fully beat Devil May Cry 2 for the series retrospective, back when I had an iPhone. Before I even thought about doing anything even remotely YouTube related. But that's besides the point. Anyway, after about a little while of playing Devil May Cry 2, I shit you not, I fell asleep. I actually fell asleep playing Devil May Cry 2. And it was really fucking boring. Not only could I not do any of the cool combos from the previous games that I had played, or Devil May Cry 4 for that matter, but at the same time, there was just nothing happening. Hell, the music wasn't even that good. And trust me, as a Sonic fan, even if the game is bad, the OST still has some sort of life in it. But not even with this game. This game was trash. But yet, I persevered. I beat Dante's campaign on normal difficulty, and I beat Lucia's campaign on normal difficulty. Never once touching any of the alternative Devil Trigger forms for either character. Anyway, after I beat Devil May Cry 2, I finally went back and fully 100%ed Devil May Cry 4. And then about 2 years went by, and I got Devil May Cry 5 and my PlayStation 4. And that pretty much catches you up to now. So, without further ado, let's get into the development of Devil May Cry 2. So hot off the heels of the success of the first Devil May Cry game, Capcom, seeing another money-printing franchise, decides, before the first game is even out, that they're gonna greenlight a sequel. Before Dante has even launched his first stinger, before any swords have been swung, guns shot, style ranks matched, they decide to make a sequel, which, in and of itself, from a publisher's standpoint, is pretty fucking ballsy. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about the development. So anyway, keep in mind, this is during the development of Devil May Cry 1, granted in the back half, but still. They decide, you know what, we're going to take this team of people that made a new genre, this team of people that made a whole new type of video game, whole new game style, and we're going to go make them work on something else. And instead what we're going to do is we're going to have the arcade division, the people that would make, your Rival Schools, your Street Fighters, those kinds of games, make DMC2. So you take a group of people that are super used to working on short, quarter-munching experiences that can be beaten under a half an hour, and you tell them to make this big, sprawling adventure game, kind of. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to answer. How do you think that's going to go? I'm going to level with you. The development of DMC2 fucking sucked, okay? Entering the final month of development, the only thing that they had down was from the first game that the stinger move was important. Only thing they had down. Didn't know what the scenario was going to be, the cutscenes weren't even rendered yet, half the levels weren't even finished, and they were still discussing what weapons they wanted to put in the game. But that is where we get introduced to the savior of this project, Hideaki Itsuno. And from that point on, he would go on to direct every Devil May Cry game. Including that one. We'll talk about it, okay? Anyway, so at this point in the development of Devil May Cry 2, the director was unknown, and to this day, in our year of 2025, is still unknown. And that's when Hideaki Itsuno came along, and made DMC2 go from a terrible game to a playable terrible game. And that is how you get to where we currently are with Devil May Cry 2. Now, I know there's not exactly a lot of humor in this segment. That's because I find bad development cycles to not really be a laughing matter. I mean, look at games like Sonic 06. And we have games on the polar opposite end of the spectrum, like Resident Evil 4. I mean, this kind of development cycle can go either way, but either way, I don't really find it to be a laughing matter. And can you tell that I don't really like the modern gaming industry, but that's a whole other topic in and of itself. Anyway, let's finally move on to the mechanics, gameplay, and story of this game, all of which are very limited. So without further ado... Oh god, okay, where do I even start with Devil May Cry 2's story? So our establishing shot is a museum narrated over, explaining the origin of Sparta and what he did in the demon world. Basically everything we've got explained to us in the intro of the first game. Anyway, after a small monologue, we are then introduced to our first character, Lucia, who is the secondary playable character of the game. Now, if you have the PS2 version, she's on her own dedicated disc, but if you're playing the HD collection, it's a little sub-menu next to the game icon. Now, who is Lucia? Well, before we can even have a smid of an introduction to her, demons fall in through the skyline as she takes them out in a calculated manner. So at least we know her fighting style. Anyway, after a few seconds, we are then introduced to Dante, who for whatever reason doesn't really say much. And then we are thrown to our first objective via a knife and a map. And before we can even think about who we're meeting or who these characters are, we are thrown into Mission 1, which is where we get to the god-awful combat in this game. So, Devil May Cry 1 established that the series would have what is called pause combos. Now, pause combos are exactly what is described in the name of what that is called. Now, the way that you execute pause combos is by, you guessed it, pausing your inputs. Take combo 1 for instance, where you push the attack button 3 times, as opposed to combo 2 where you push the attack button once, and then rapid fire it afterwards. Now, in DMC2, what is your combat system? Now, I'm assuming that this is because the development team was mostly devised up of fighting game developers, but basically the long and short answer that I can give you is that in fighting games, take Guilty Gear Strive for instance, because that's all I can get footage of, you have what is called input-based combos. Take this basic kick for instance. You can add an input to that to make it a different move, like a quarter circle or a half circle. Now, what I think they were trying to do was translate something like that to 3D. Now, later on, the series would have more complex inputs for its moves, like back to forward inputs, back inputs, left inputs for some characters, hell, even full circles for characters like V and Virgil in Devil May Cry 5. But this execution of it just sucks. Okay, so basically what you do for most combos is that you push the attack button, and then you change the direction of the stick mid-combo, which already feels awkward. But if you're locked on, you won't even execute the combo correctly, which is why they changed the lock-on system. So in Devil May Cry 1, you had a lock-on system that was manual, that could be changed on the fly depending on which enemy you were directed at. In Devil May Cry 2, for some reason, you have it to where it is auto-locked on specific enemies, which can really fuck you over in specific combat sections. Let's take this footage, for instance. Or this clip. Or this clip. There's numerous instances of this throughout the game because it just doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you just port over the moveset directly from DMC1 Dante? I mean, the game was already in development hell. And the funny thing is that they actually did. You see, after beating the game 4 times, which yes, I actually had to do so, you unlock Trish. And Trish is literally Devil May Cry 1 Dante's moveset, but with a different character. So I struggled to see why you couldn't just port over DMC1 Dante's moveset. Hell, there's a PC mod for it. Although if you're playing Devil May Cry 2, the HD collection on PC, I think you have some problems. However, that doesn't even begin to compare to Lucia. She's like a worse Dante. Basically, rather than having swords, by the way, there's no extra weapons in this game, which sucks. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna go on a whole ass tangent about the weapons. So, Devil May Cry 1, yes, your arsenal was bulking of swords, but you also had weapons like Ifrit, you had the rocket launcher, you had your various different guns. In Devil May Cry 2, yes, you have various different guns, but you only have 4 swords. You have the Rebellion, you have the Vendetta, and you have a few others that I can't remember the name of. To reestablish, I don't use scripts. Anyway, there's nothing different about any of these. They all do the same combos, they're the same moves, and don't even get me started on Stinger. We'll talk about it. But God, long story short, Devil May Cry 2's combat is so underwhelming. It is by far the slowest, sluggish combat system known to this series. And I'm glad they dropped it. The only good thing that this game did in terms of combat, more aerial stuff, and by that I mean they gave us 2 fucking kicks in the air. 2 kicks. Okay, I'm gonna put some footage from Devil May Cry 4, hell, even Devil May Cry 3, next to footage of DMC 2. Which one do you think you would rather play? Which one looks more intuitive? Which one looks like it would be, oh, I don't know, actual fucking fun? Sorry, I'm getting off track and I'm kind of pissed off. Anyway, what I'm trying to explain is that the combat in DMC2 just falls on its face. And that goes for the whole game. This game is nothing but a fucking nothing burger of stupidity. And there could have been something good from it, had they had more time. Now, I guess this portion of the conversation fits more into the development section, but I don't feel like going all the way back and re-editing this portion in. See, Capcom, for the event known as Resident Evil 2, decided midway through production of Resident Evil 2, when the game was almost done, that's a stupid sentence, that they were going to delay it to make it a better product, and look how the final product turned out. This is an amazing survival horror game. Now, I don't understand why they didn't do that for Devil May Cry 2. But alas, we have yet to discuss Lucia. See, Lucia, rather than fighting with swords and guns like Dante, fights with knives. Fucking knives. So, rather than having the rapid-fire pistols that absolutely incinerate everything, we get this bullshit. Jesus, this fucking sucks. See, Lucia doesn't even get her own missions. She doesn't even get any new content aside from a boss fight. No, wait, 2 boss fights. You fight Arius at the end of the campaign. And that's literally it. All of her data could have been stored on one DVD for the PS2 version. But because Capcom wanted to make the game look bigger, they put the game on 2 discs. So you would be falsely inclined to think that you'd be running around these 2 big, expansive worlds, when in actuality it's just shit like this. And Lucia follows the same combat mold as Dante even, with the input combos, as opposed to the pause combos that worked so well in Devil May Cry 1. Hell, that's one thing I can commend the reboot on, if we're going to talk about it briefly, and I do mean briefly, is that they at least got that down, with some added tweaks that made it fun. But we're not here to talk about the reboot, we're here to talk about Devil May Cry 2. More like Devil May Piss Himself 2 Electric Boogaloo. Anyway, that's the combat in a nutshell. But because I don't want this review to be all negative, I'd like to take a brief section and talk about what Devil May Cry 2 does right. Starting with the Devil Trigger. So in Devil May Cry 1, what you had was a Devil Trigger system that was pretty static. You would just push a button, and then after that, nothing really would happen. You'd have faster movement, your attacks would hit harder. Take it like Unleashed mode from Sonic Unleashed. By the way, quick tangent, I am so unbelievably happy that this game finally has a PC port. There will be a short video on that coming soon. Anyway, take it like that. Take it like a Berserk mode almost. Basically, you hit harder and you run faster. And you do everything better. Now in Devil May Cry 2, what they did even better is they had the amulet system, where you would have one amulet that would change your passive ability, one amulet that would change your combat abilities and style, and another amulet that would change the element of your attack. So your passive ability can be something like healing faster, moving faster, flight. Your combat ability is elemental based, where it's ice, fire, or electricity. Electricity increasing your range, fire making you hit harder, and ice slowing down enemies. Now, what the hell even is this system? Because it is really, really good. And I think it's something that Hideaki Itsuno put in, because they couldn't even agree on whether or not to put the stinger in. The stinger! Anyway, I might be getting off track. Another brilliant thing the Devil May Cry 2 added was Majin Devil Trigger, exclusive for Dante. Now, when you're close to dying and you click the Devil Trigger button, you get this super powered up version of Devil Trigger, called Majin Devil Trigger. Basically, all your attacks hit like a fucking truck. Basically, it can be compared to something like Sin Devil Trigger from Devil May Cry 5. Actually, this was the direct inspiration for Sin Devil Trigger from Devil May Cry 5. So in a way, something good did in fact come out of Devil May Cry 2, besides the rest of the series. But there's one final thing I would love to mention about Devil May Cry 2 that I do so enjoy. And that is Trish. See, she basically is the saving grace of this game if you're willing to sit through it 3 times or 4 times, depending if you want to get Dante Must Die. Now, Trish is quite literally Devil May Cry 1 Dante in DMC2, but with some tweaks. Her moveset is literally Devil May Cry 1, so, in turn, you can actually start having fun with the game. Take all of Dante's moveset from Devil May Cry 1, pour it into this game, and have it go from insufferable to playable. And that's pretty much Trish in a nutshell. Well, shortly after Mission 1, we are introduced to our third character in the story, Matier, Lucia's mother. So, what does Matier do? I mean, she dumps a little exposition and she looks at you like this. Anyway, basically, the exposition that is given to us is that Arius, an evil business lord, is siphoning demonic energy from the demon world to merge with the demon king Argosax and become one with him. Now, what does this mean for the human race? Well, basically a, dinosaur level event. And Dante's like, well, damn, I can't have that happen. So we get about 6 more missions of no cutscenes. Dante says this cool one-liner after replacing one of the medallia with his own coin. Oh, yeah. That's one thing I don't like about Dante in this game. He flips a fucking coin like he's goddamn Two-Face from the Batman Arkham games. I mean, I guess they share one thing in common.
2 guns, bitch!
Anyway, after the coin slander aside, we get this beautiful one-liner.
King? Yeah. Here's your crown.
P.S. It's the only good one-liner in the whole fucking game. So after that one really good one-liner, we get to defeat the aftermath of a Taco Bell feast, and then Argosax the Chaos, as Dante proceeds to ride his motorcycle. Wait, how the hell did he get it in there? It's best not to ask questions. And we get to see him live on another day in hell. Now, what you're really here for, surprisingly, is Lucia's story. So, a little ways into Lucia's campaign, it is established that she is a botched experiment done by Arius to be a part of his demonic half-human army. So basically she has a whole crisis of identity about whether or not she's going to lose control someday and become evil. Not really much is done with it outside of a few occasions. And at the end of her campaign, she gets the same treatment as Trish. Literally, the speech is exactly the same line for line. Basically, she just gets the devil's never cries speech to confirm that you are in fact human. Which I guess could have a better narrative sting to it if it was actually, meaningful. But, alas. Now, we've talked about the combat, we've discussed the story. What else is there to discuss? Well, we have to discuss the bosses. Oh, God. Okay, so where do we even start with bad boss fights? Well, I guess we could start with the first one. So your first boss in the whole game is going to be this stupid fucking monkey. And this stupid fucking monkey is just such a bad fight. I mean, sure, you can get some cool stuff out of it. I mean, with the rudimentary jump canceling that's in the game. But it's just not fun. It doesn't leave you with a sense of adrenaline or pride when you beat it like any of the bosses from DMC 1. Next up, we have... this stupid fish thing can fuck right off, okay? You have this constantly shooting, like, poison gas and stuff, and you have to shoot these stupid tentacles, and it adds so much time to the clear rank time of the fucking mission. Dude, it sucks. Next up, we have this stupid fucking moth from, like, mission something. This moth can fuck right off. It releases this stupid larva that come out and pop out of the ground and fuck you up. And this thing never comes down so you can hit it with melee. So you're constantly doing what every DMC2 player does. Shooting your fucking guns at everything. Don't even get me started on the infested chopper. which is literally just the moth, but worse, because it launches attacks that you can't even see fucking coming. Alright. Next up, we have Bulwark, which is supposed to be your Nello Angelo equivalent for this game. Basically, he does nothing, dies after your 2 encounters with him, and then you're just kind of left sitting there like, man, that was hella underwhelming. Anyway, your next boss fight after that is the ball and chain guy that I can't remember the name of. He exists, you can do, the same thing that you do with every boss in this game, that being stand there and shoot. It fucking sucks. Moving on. There is the skyscraper boss. Now, I appreciate the spectacle of this fight. The spectacle of this fight is really interesting. That's probably why this clip was used so much in the promotional material. But my god, this fucking fight is so lame. You fight them the first portion of the fight is literally just fighting him when he's like popping out of the building and shooting lasers and stuff, and you're like, oh, just jump up and melee him. And you can't do that because he releases swarms of bats that'll just come up and fucking attack you out of nowhere, and you can't see them coming because they're black on a primarily black background, and it's like, bro, why? Anyway, after that mess, we have Phantom, returning from Devil May Cry 1. This guy can fuck right off. Also, for whatever reason, he's so much smaller in this game. Like, compare his size in Devil May Cry 1 and then look at him in DMC 2, and it's like, what happened to you, man? Oh, I'm also forgetting a fight. There's the fire demon that pops up in the oil rig mission. He pops up, he shoots some fire, he makes some demon noises, and then he fucking dies. Yippee, I guess. Oh, God. So don't even get me started on fucking Trismagia. Do you know what you do to fucking beat Trismagia? What you do for every fucking boss fight in this whole goddamn game. You stand there and you shoot, because you can't do melee because he's way off in the fucking background doing fuck all. He's doing this He's doing this stupid psychedelic head fusing and unfusing shit as I'm sitting there going, hey, I'm trying to play a video game, not watch a fucking Pink Floyd music video, although those are usually pretty good. You should check out Brick in the Wall. But yeah, no, fuck Trismagia. And then we have the final boss for Dante's campaign, Argosax the Chaos, the Despair embodied. The only good fight in this game. If it had DMC1's moveset, this would be a fight of the... This would be like a... If this game had DMC1's moveset, this would be like the Duel of the Fates. This would be fucking epic. Because he fights so fast and so weird, and like you got all this weird uncanny music, and it's so crazy. And come to think of it, this is the only good boss fight in the game. And with that conclusion reached, I realized that I've missed 2 boss fights in this game. So you fight Arius a few times. Those are super underwhelming. You chase him around the room and you hit him with your sword until he fucking dies. And then with that, there is Lucia's boss fights. Her only unique boss fights, a stupid fuck off fish. How about a big hell no on that? I'm glad it never fucking returns in this series ever. And then you fight Arius as his powered up demon form, and he just kind of exists. He'll charge at you, you dodge out of the way, you shoot him with your knives, you hit him with your handheld knives, and then you just kind of fuck off. And then for his second phase, he becomes this stupid fucking Resident Evil looking creature. It's like, god damn, broski, I knew you was ugly, but holy fuck. Anyway, he dies, the game ends, and then you're thankful that you don't have to play it again. And I'm currently checking my notes, and I realized I forgot the second to final boss on Dante's campaign. The Taco Bell Atrocity. Basically a fusion of every boss fight in the whole game, but for whatever reason Griffin's here, and it just kind of exists. It's not that difficult once you stand in between its attack zones, so none of the attacks actually hit you. And then you sit there and, you guessed it, spam your guns. Jesus Christ, this game is so boring. Anyway, I realized in the last video that I forgot to mention the music of Devil May Cry 1, and in doing that, I've committed a serious crime against the character action genre, because usually the music in these games is top-notch. So since I didn't mention the DMC1 soundtrack in that video, I'm gonna mention it here. Now, DMC1's music is super atmospheric, with tracks like the main castle track from Mission 1, and then after that you get this bombastic track called Public Enemy. Super good. And then you get tracks like Lock and Load and Ultraviolet, and the boss themes in Devil May Cry 1 are so fucking good. Seriously, if you ever want to listen to an album that you haven't listened to before, go listen to the Devil May Cry 1 soundtrack. It's so good. And it's not just the pumped up music that's super great. Take the statue theme, for instance. Now, with that out of the way, what is DMC2's music like? Well, unmemorable and fucking boring, like this whole game. I tried so hard to like this game, to want to be able to play it 4 times to unlock a 3rd playable character. But if I'm gonna be real with you guys, I am never going to touch this game outside of getting stock footage for playing as Trish outside of Devil May Cry 4. I will never fucking touch this game ever again. This game is so unbelievably boring. And I guess that's the note we leave off on. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. Please like and subscribe, and I would really appreciate it if you do so. A lot of my family seems to think that I can't do this as a real job, so you doing those things is actively proving them wrong. Not to mention giving me some traction in this hellscape known as the YouTube algorithm. Now, I'll see you next time. Thank you to all my amazing subscribers, including but not limited to Devil Joe, That Nerd Again, Sans the Pirate, and many others. I'm very humble and I'm very humble and thankful to entertain all 70 of you. Now please, have a lovely, lovely day. And tune in next time for the amazing, the stunningly stylish, the bombastically badass